Hello there guys, welcome back to Younes Talks Football, welcome back to a brand new video. I hope all of you are doing well tonight. If you're a Chelsea fan, you're probably not. Although, are there some positives to take? Yes. Are there a good amount of negatives? Yes. We'll get to all of that very shortly. If you're a Man City fan, you're probably not that happy with the performance, but you got a result and you got 3 points and you're now 5 points behind Arsenal, so congrats on that aspect. We'll get into the nitty-gritty very shortly. Before we do, though, two things. Firstly, make sure you hit the links in the description. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram. I am back on Twitter in case you've been in a cave. Make sure you're following me. Instagram as well. Hit those links, follow and enjoy. Secondly, if you want to join the channel, make sure you hit that join button down below and choose which tier you want to get into. I'm going to read out some of the names of the ones that have joined the starting 11. So, much appreciated for joining the channel, supporting the cause and getting the extra perks that you do get in those tiers. In the starting 11, here they are. Houseboat, Charles Ngunyi, Luke James, Phil, Dumas, Thomas Gages, if I've said that correctly, Irvin on Okonkwo and Jason Schott. Thank you very, very much. Or Scott, whether you say it that way or whatever way. I hope I haven't butchered your name. I apologise if I have. But thank you so much for becoming members and joining the starting 11. Let's get cracking into this game. Chelsea 0, Man City 1. Now, off the bat, I have to say, you didn't need to be Nostradamus to predict that Chelsea were going to lose this fixture. Right, because I did see a few people that were going, oh, no, you know what? The cards are dealt against us. We're not very confident. That means we're going to go out and we're going to show everything because we've got nothing to lose. We were always going to lose this game. let's just be real. Now, I thought it would be more than just the 1-0. And Man City on their day-to-day were not good at all, especially the first half. Credit to Chelsea in some aspects as to why. We'll get into that. But overall, Man City could have done more, and they showed in the second half after making some substitutions exactly how they should have done more and what they could have done to do more. Because overall, with the lineup that they went with, you'd expect them to play a lot more of the football that we saw in the second half throughout the game. We didn't get that. Haaland was quite quiet, ironically, although I do think that is probably a part of the reason why Man City were hindered. Because it seemed like it was easier to defend against Manchester City tonight with them playing in this certain way, even though we lost. But easier than having to face Man City of last season, or the season before. Because Man City were a lot more dynamic, and now it just feels like they're trying to get the ball to Erling Haaland. Like, that's it. Whether they go on the left, they go on the right, they try to go down the middle, they try to, go from side to side, stretch the play a little bit, hit the lines. They still always just try to get the ball to Haaland. And as long as you're cutting that off, City then are just passing sideways and trying to get through, which they found fairly difficult. But credit to Chelsea for that in the first half, I have to say, because the way that Chelsea were set up defensively was actually pretty solid. And Man City really didn't create much in that first half. But this is where we get the same old story. It's the same old story. Let's start off with the lineup. Let's start off how it all went down. Then we'll get into the nitty-gritty for the second half and the typical things that we've been seeing from Chelsea as of late. We started with Kepa, back four, Azpilicueta, Koulibaly, Thiago Silva, Cucurella. We went with a 2 of Zakaria and Kovacic. We had Sterling, Pulisic and Ziyech, and Kai Havertz up front. I wasn't totally against this lineup. I mean, the only person that I've got here that I would probably change is Azpilicueta. Azpilicueta, for me, as I've said, we saw it today. I mean, I understand why I get to an extent why Potter feels like I've got to play him. Because playing Chalobah at right back is deemed risky. But we're at a point where we got to take these risks. And Chalobah at right back I felt like would have probably been a little bit more dynamic than Azpi. Azpi at moments done what he could. But this is the problem. He does what he can, and that's it. It's not him being rubbish. It's his legs that are gone. That's it. His head knows what to do. His head does choose the correct decision, but his legs could not respond. After 15 minutes, the man was huffing and puffing. I mean, it's just, we don't have to play him. It is what it is. Anyway, but the rest of the lineup, I wasn't entirely against. I understood why the rest of the defenders have to play. Kovacic and Zakaria are the ones that I put in my preview. I was happy with that. Ziyech, Sterling, Pulisic, I don't mind it. I did put Hutchinson in that as a risk, albeit Potter was not going to do that. We know that. But Ziyech, very bright. Very bright. And this is why I think he needs to be playing more. And when he came off, I was head scratching, I have to say. Anyway, Sterling, Pulisic, Havertz up front. I get it. We'll get to Havertz very shortly. But within 2 minutes, we had Sterling come off. Immediately, one challenge, goes in, holds his hamstring, and he's thinking, I've got to come off. Now, it looks like it's his hamstring. So that means that he's probably going to be out for maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks, somewhere along that margin. And it just goes, we have to address this now. This is getting stupid. And then not long after, Pulisic had not a similar issue, but a similar occasion. He had to come off because of injury. He went in for a shot. Great tackle by John Stones, by the way. No doubts as to whether that was a great tackle or not. Pulisic is unfortunate in that circumstance. But You can't pinpoint, and say, oh, that injury should not have happened, right? It's an injury. Those things happen. But it's flabbergasting to see just how fragile we are. We're made of cheese. We are made of cheese and glass. This squad is cheese and glass. And our medical team are non-existent. It has to be addressed. What on earth is going on medically at this football club? It's bonkers. Whether the decisions that are being made in terms of players coming back from injury, whether it's about the actual fitness of some players, whether it's about the overplaying of some players, or have they hit a certain intensity, but even then, it's even about the timing of playing these players. Because there's some decisions medically that you can see being made, and it's just, it doesn't add up. It doesn't add up. You can go back to the Reece James thing for that. But we are suffering from tons of injuries. And we've got players, like I look at that Pulisic challenge. And I think, yes, it's a shot and it's a tackle and the legs collide. Is it just us that's really unlucky? Or should Pulisic be stronger? Do you know what I mean? I'm not blaming Pulisic, but I'm saying, should he just be stronger to deal with that? You're in the Premier League. That's a challenge that you normally you crack on with. Your leg's strong enough to be able to handle. You just get on with it. And I don't know. I don't quite know whether it's because of the medical team. Are our players being trained correctly physically? Are they in the gym doing what they have to do? Are they hitting a certain intensity that they have to? It doesn't feel like they are. That's the problem. That's why I'm looking at this Pulisic one, for example. I'm thinking maybe that shouldn't have happened. So anyway, it is what it is. It is what it is. I mean, flipping the amount of injuries now we've got is actually quite ridiculous. We brought on Aubameyang for Sterling. We brought on Chukwuemeka for Pulisic. Aubameyang going up top, Havertz coming a little deeper, Chukwuemeka coming in and playing more on that left-hand side. And you know what? Chukwuemeka tonight made a case. Absolutely made a case. Not perfect. No one was 10 out of 10. Let's just put that right. No one was 10 out of 10. But in terms of especially those young lads, Chukwuemeka coming in, I thought he imposed himself quite well. I thought he got involved quite well. Not just involved in just, I've got the ball many times, but he produced, he was getting into space, he was forward thinking. I mean, this one issue, and I'm going to jump to Kai Havertz here, because Kai Havertz came deeper. There was a big debate at half-time on Twitter. I saw it, right? Because there was a lot of people that was like, oh, Havertz playing well. Yeah, he's involved. And then there's other people going, no, Havertz, yes, he's here, right? Great, he's getting the ball. But my God, he keeps passing backwards. And I have to say this, and it's not just Havertz, it's a team thing. But in that first half, Havertz was doing it way too much. The amount of occasions that we had where Havertz could have just run into space with ongoing attackers next to him to try and create something, and he decides to either slow down and then maybe proceed once City get back into position a little bit, or he goes sideways, drifts off, and then passes back to Thiago Silva. I mean, what are you going to do with that? What are you going to get from that? The amount of times, and again, I'm not just singling out Kai Havertz on this point in general, but in that first half, Havertz was doing it every single 10 seconds. For one great forward pass that he did make, there were 5 backward passes that he'd make afterwards. And it's just crazy. When the opportunity is there, the backward pass is made when you've got no avenue. It's locked. And you have to shift the play, and you're not going to cross it all the way with bodies right in front of you. You've go backwards so they can go sideways, so they can shift over to the other side or go cross diagonal. They can do what they want, but you've done what you have to do. It's crazy the amount of opportunity we actually had to just get on that attack. The amount of times we were on a break and it slows it down. I'm like, what are you doing? In the first half, I was fuming with him. Overall, though, as a team, we do this too much. We need to stop. I do not understand why we constantly have to go back. Every single time we have to go back. When there's an opportunity to go forward, no, we got to go back. We got to slow down, we got to go back. Stop going back. It's crazy. It's suicide. It's actually suicide. And there's nothing done about it. That's my problem. We see it constantly, and at least if Man City had this. Man City at times had to go back because there was no one to go forward for, especially in that first half. Chelsea had everyone marked and it was like, okay, I've got no option. There's no option. I'm going to go backwards. But Chelsea sometimes just do it for fun. It's bonkers. It's absolutely bonkers. And that was the first half, pretty much. Move into the second half, and that's where I was waiting because we saw the first half. We were decent in the first half. Let's have it right. There was the chance of Chukwuemeka, for example, that hit the post, right? There was a couple of other chances. Ziyech, for example, keeper gets a hand onto it. But overall, it wasn't bad. The first half was decent. We were decent. We looked up for it. That mentality that we was talking about, well, not mentality necessarily. We weren't, fighting for our lives, but it was better than what we'd seen in some previous games. At halftime, I told myself, I was like, don't get excited. Why? Because we tend to, at least the last two games and pre-World Cup, before the World Cup, there's this tendency for us to just fall off in the second half. It's like we don't come out the dressing room. So when I saw this first half and I saw 0-0, I was like, yeah, we're definitely losing. Unless if the players come out and prove me wrong, they do something else. And just as I said, we come out in the second half and we weren't bright at all. We'd gotten worse. And I don't understand why that happens all the time. Why does that happen all the time? Why do we come out in the second half worse off than we went in at the end of the first half? I need that explained. We lose intensity, we get slower, we lose concentration completely. We were concentrating the first half. Second half, we weren't concentrating, especially for the first portion of that second half. And then some substitutions are made. We get into the next 20 minutes of the second half and some substitutions are made. Pep Guardiola immediately makes a bold move. This is what separates the greats from the goods and the bads, man, honestly. He brings on Akanji and he brings on Rico Lewis, taking off Walker and Cancelo. How bold is that? That is bold. That is very, very bold, and it worked. Because the moment that second half kicked off, you saw Rico Lewis just getting into spaces, getting into avenues, making sure that he's available. The same goes for Akanji in terms of moving the ball out of the back a lot quicker. And you just saw City acting a lot more dynamic now. All of a sudden, they're not as slow and stuck as they were in the first half. They look a little bit more free. And we looked like we weren't up for trying to catch them whatsoever. We were a lot slower. As I said, we lost concentration. We were leaving space. We were losing the ball very carelessly. And it's annoying. It's really, really annoying. And then there's two more substitutions that are made. Mahrez and Grealish come on. Mahrez and Grealish come on for Bernardo Silva and Foden. And we still haven't made any more subs at this point. Despite Pep Guardiola reacting, we've not made any more subs. 3 minutes it took Grealish and Mahrez to get that goal. 3 minutes. Ball gets over to Grealish. Aspie's too slow to close him. Ball gets cut across the box. Kepa, some people are going to say Kepa maybe didn't see it. He'd be looking at a fan in the flipping stands if he couldn't see that, to be honest. His concentration must have been outside the ground if he couldn't see that. Ball comes across and he doesn't commit. But at the same time, Cucurella just letting Mahrez do what he wants. It's just, it's nowhere near good enough. Nowhere near good enough. No one gets their body across. The whole defense, no one gets their body across. Kepa doesn't get his body across. Cucurella allows Mahrez to just get into that space. And boom, it's one ball from Grealish, one hit from Mahrez, and it's in. And it's 1-0. And at that point, we're playing a chasing game. And it's typical because that was always going to come. And then it takes Graham Potter to make the move. At that point, Graham Potter, minute 68, we make 3 substitutions. Hutchinson coming on for Aubameyang, who he brought on earlier on. because I was looking at that sub and I didn't quite get it. There was Lewis Hall coming on for Cucurella, which I've got to speak about Lewis Hall very shortly. And then there was Gallagher coming on for Ziyech. I understood Chukwuemeka coming on for Pulisic. Aubameyang coming on for Sterling, I didn't quite get. Especially in that position, I probably expected Hutchinson or Chukwuemeka to come on at that point. And if Chukwuemeka was going to come on at that point, then I'd expect Hutchinson to come on afterwards for Pulisic. Didn't happen. We brought in Aubameyang only to take him off later by bringing on Hutchinson for him. That's what I don't get. Then we bring on Gallagher for Ziyech, and that for me was a little bit mind-blowing because Ziyech was the one creating for us, I would say, alongside, I would say, Chukwuemeka too. But Ziyech, some would say Havertz, but Ziyech for me was it tonight in terms of the one player that I felt like done what he had to do. And fair play to Ziyech, he looked very, very bright. Very, very bright. Why take him off? We're chasing a game. Why take him off? For Gallagher. And Gallagher, yes, during the time that he was on, he was running, he was getting stuck in. Yeah, he was showing the passion. But on the ball, not much was there. It's these little things. Now, Hutchinson, for me, started off a little weird, which is, I would say, completely normal for his debut against Manchester City in the Premier League. Absolutely normal. Got into his game later, I would say. Started, because at first he looked careless. He looked like he didn't know how to control the ball. His cross, I would say, went all the way to the corner flag at one point. Later on, he adapted, and I think he composed himself. Probably got a little bit too nervous. It happens with some young players. We see Lewis Hall, on the other hand. How bright is Lewis Hall? These players need to start getting trusted. These young lads that are probably going to respond, even to Graham Potter right now, who needs to look at this team. Because look, things need to happen. These results cannot continue. We're in 10th. Yeah? And now we're solidly in 10th. We're 10 points away from top 4, in case if anyone's not realised. We're 19 points behind Arsenal. After 17 games played, we're not halfway through the season. It's pathetic. That's actually pathetic, right? It's ridiculous. Now, we've got Man City on the weekend as well in the FA Cup. It could get long. But if Potter wants to salvage something, he needs to take a look at this team and notice some of the players that are just not it. And look to the youngsters that are going to give something for him. And then try and ride along that. Because if he does go down that route, I think it's safe to say that all of the fan base would understand it. Right now, there's a portion of the fan base that just don't get what's going on. And I felt like if he took that bold route, I think he'd get support. I really do. You have to trust some of these lads and then just start wiping out the players that you're just not going to be using. Simple. Or the ones that are not responding, the ones that are not showing. I have to say, tonight, Zachariah in midfield, I thought was, well, I'm not going to say magnificent. The second half display was actually better than the first half display from Zachariah, but he showed something that we've been lacking in midfield for quite some time, and it shows that playing him today ahead of Jorginho was a good idea. Defensively looked good. Second half, offensively, trying to get past players, moving with the ball in tight spaces. He was doing all of it. Very happy with him. Zachariah, keep it up. Kovacic overall, bright. He's not exempt from those little mistakes of just carelessly giving the ball away, though. It happened everywhere, across the park. We need to fix that. Sometimes we just give the ball to the opposition for fun. That needs to stop. But Zachariah, I honestly want to give him his plaudits because he deserves it. And as I've said, for this whole injury crisis right now, I don't know what's going on. The defence, Azpilicueta, as I've said, his legs are gone. Cucurella, couple of bright moments. Overall, not fantastic. Careless on the ball again, giving the ball away. One of the culprits, Koulibaly, one of the culprits. It's not good enough. Overall, it's just not good enough. When we take a step back and we look at Chelsea, what on earth has happened to this football club? It's bonkers. What has happened to this football club? On every single level. Player level, manager level, all levels. Medical level, pick all the levels you want. It's chaos. It's absolute chaos. And how is it going to get fixed? That's the question that everyone wants answered. And right now, as I've said, let's be real, Potter's not going anywhere. Even with this, unless it hits a certain red line, which for me, I think we're near. For some others, maybe not. For business, because let's remember, football's based on money. Yeah. things hit a certain level. I don't know if the new owners are willing to just write it off, but if we went into 14th or something, I think at that point questions would need to be asked. Do you know what I mean? So we need to be careful where we're treading. And I honestly think if Potter wants to try and salvage something quick, because results matter, right? I get the process and all of that, but results matter. He wants to salvage something. He needs to start singling out the ones who are not giving what they have to give, that are not showing what they need to show. I have to be real, and Aubameyang is a clear example. You know, we're talking about Aspie and his legacy, absolutely, but he needs to take a back seat. There are players for various reasons that need to be put aside. But the young players that are there ready, like a Lewis Hall, I think he's ready. He deserves an opportunity in the first team. Play him. Week in, week out, let's see what he does. He's going to respond to you. So let's wait and see what happens. Let me know your thoughts down below. The reality of the situation is, though, we lost at home. And it finishes 1-0. And we're 10th. So let me know how you feel. Let me know your thoughts, your opinions on tonight's game. Thank you all very much for watching. Hit the subscribe button if you are new. Hit the notification bell to be notified once I've uploaded. Smash the like button if you've enjoyed this. Don't forget to follow me on my social media links in the description. Join the channel if you haven't already. And I will see all of you tomorrow for a new one. Have a good one, people. See you then. Take care. And peace.